want to talk about Emily. So I made several videos now just looking into her background, talking about like her childhood, her and her son, and like one of her past marriages. She goes into a lot of this in one of her blogs, and I covered a few of her blogs in one of my videos. I will look more into it in this video, and I do want to just cover a few other things with Emily. So she started doing stand-up a few months ago, and she's trying to start her lane with that. I don't think like it's something she's doing like full-time. It's just something she's doing here and there because she's still currently working at the brothel. She actually just came back there a few weeks ago, like a week or two ago, after like going on break for a little bit. But I think she was like by appointment only, so they would just like call her and she would come in. But now she's back to living there. I don't know for how long, but then she did post that while she was at the brothel, someone decided to send her a letter, and this was an inmate who I'm assuming must have watched the show Behind Bars, and he decided to try to rizz Emily up. And I gotta point out, he does have good handwriting though. His handwriting's better than mine. So he says, "Emily Marie, I'm writing to applaud you for being an honest woman. The fact your story is so intriguing and interesting, it's beyond attractive." And then he goes on to say, I love you for who you are. You're so pretty. I love your body. You need a man of understanding. And I guess apparently at some point he started dragging Justin, and she said, "Don't freaking talk about Justin, you piece of ish." Then Stark has made a post pretty much just like introducing Emily and talking about the fact that she was on the show and she charged this guy $2,500 an hour, and she shared and claimed that her prices have since gone up. She said they definitely went up, so take a second mortgage out on your house. Do you guys think she's trolling, or do you guys think she's being realistic? Because, you know, she did show what brothel she's working at, so I'm very curious if anybody's watched the show and decided to come see her. I do find it interesting that she just started like her next like full-time stay. That was actually a pretty smart business move because she made sure to come back when the show was airing, when she would probably be getting attention from it, to hopefully maybe increase her appointments. And now I want to talk about Emily's blog. So like I mentioned in a past video, Emily was married and she had this very toxic marriage, and I released some messages between her and her ex-husband where she was talking about how much she hated her husband's kids. She reached out to me. She asked me to read her blog and look into what she said about everything. So I'm going to read her blog post from December 17th of 2022, so about 4 years ago. And her blog post is called "Toxicity with a Side of Toxic." So she goes on to reveal at the time that she was 24 years old and going on her second marriage, which I just find that interesting that the show didn't mention the fact that she's been married twice before, because it seems like usually they like to go into cast members' past love life, since this is a show pretty much surrounded around people's relationships. Then she goes on to say, look, I'm not trying to bash anyone, but she can finally recognize that her and her husband were both toxic. She said they're both toxic in their own ways, and I guess even they were trying to see a marriage therapist to try to improve their marriage, but I guess it didn't work. And she said that they were both very aware of how to hurt each other, and they knew what would get under that person's skin the most. Instead of like working on the toxicity, they would just kind of laugh it off, and they still decided it was a good idea to get married. She claims that she met her second husband when she was in a very vulnerable spot because she was going through postpartum depression, and she just had her son 3 months prior, and she said that he had just got out of jail, and once they met, they fell in love really quick and became dependent on each other. They had to be with each other all day, every single day. She said they both came from brokenness, and she said like especially for her, going years without working on herself and just a whole lot of mental illness under one roof, it just wasn't a good combination between her and her husband. She said that she felt like they understood each other very well, but they just really knew how to bring out the worst in each other. And she said she's not going to go into everything that happened in her marriage, but she said things went from being great to being mentally toxic, and then things turned physical. They eventually turned into each other's abusers. She said that he would make her cut off all her friends, and she was supposed to just pretty much just put all her sole focus into him. And she said that he didn't like the way she dressed. Any pictures that she had of old friends that passed away, she said he deleted them right in front of her while she was sitting there begging and crying for him not to. He threatened her that he was going to tell her son that she didn't want him, and she said she would do things that really hurt him too, things that he knew would really hurt him. Like, she claims that, like, when she said that she hated his kids, she didn't really mean that. She just knew that was something that was going to get under his skin and really hurt him. And then she said, like, look, I was fine with him having kids when I first got with him, but I started making problems out of things that weren't problems just because I was so unhappy with him and I wanted leverage against him. And she said that she got to the point where the relationship was so toxic that she convinced herself that the only time that she was going to listen to him is when he put hands on her, which was a very frequent thing from the sounds of it. She said she felt like it had to get to that point because she felt like she was never being heard, and she felt like the only way to get him to understand how she was feeling was for her to mentally F with his mental health and try to push him as far as possible. Since they're both so toxic together, they knew how to put on a good show in front for the world. She said she had this memory pop up on her Facebook, and it was this picture of them together, and everybody was commenting, saying goals, but she's like, what nobody really knew was I had bruises all over me. She actually had like this giant bruise on her thigh, and she was sitting there crying to her husband, talking about, look, it's summertime, and I can't even wear shorts this summer because I don't want anybody to see this big ass bruise. So all these people thought they were goals, but they really didn't know the toxicity that was going on behind closed doors. She had been in toxic relationships all her life, so she had figured that this is just how a relationship is. She didn't have a father growing up. She never knew her father. It sounds like she really never had like a positive male role model in her life. So this is just what she thought was normal, what everybody was going through in their marriages. And she said that she eventually was just starting to get sick and tired of it. And she said she even knew they were toxic before they got married, but they still decided to get married. And she said she was always very submissive to him when they first got together because she was just going through postpartum. So she was just going through the flow, and she was just so happy to have someone's attention and be loved while she was going through it. But 1 month before they got married, she stopped being submissive, which he didn't like too much. But still, they decided a month later to get married in Vegas. She got her dream ring, which she got to customize all by herself. But after they got married, the honeymoon phase didn't last long. I guess literally hours after they got married, she got screamed at on the strip of Vegas because she couldn't move past the things that he did to her in the beginning of their relationship. Okay, that's something that they definitely should have worked on and figured out before they decided to get married. And she said that she just felt like she couldn't trust him, and she was bringing up these things, and she couldn't figure out why she couldn't move past these things. But the thing was, she couldn't move past these things because they're still actively happening. She didn't explain what it was that hurt her so bad early on in their relationship, but she did come out and say that he cheated on her with like 30 different girls, or talked to like 30 different girls. So I'm assuming it was some kind of infidelity or something like that. And it sounds like he continued on with his ways even after they got married. And she realized that after she got married, like, damn, like, he's still just as bad as ever. She said he got physical with her multiple times during this time period. It sounds like right after they got married, but she still tried to look past it because she thought that she wasn't going to be able to find anyone else, and she thought that he loved her son. So she's like, I finally got my son a father figure in his life. But she wasn't really thinking the full picture through, like, hey, yeah, he may have a father figure, but he has to be exposed to this toxicity. She explained things that were okay with her at the beginning started to become issues, like I mentioned earlier, like him having kids. Like, she was fine with that before, him having kids before her, but eventually that turned into ammo that she used against him because she said she didn't have much on him that he didn't have on her. So she dug and tried to use anything that she could find against him. She said she had no idea how to communicate, so she would just say the most vile things to him and just tell him how much she hated him over and over again instead of like really expressing like what it was that was hurting her. And it sounds like he didn't really know how to communicate very good either. So they would never be able to really resolve their issues, and things just continued to get worse and worse as time progressed. And eventually she sat down and calmly asked him for a divorce due to him continuously cheating. And she said that led to a whole new level of physical abuse that she never expected to see from him. So she had no choice, and it was just a matter of time for her to leave and never look back. And that's one blog post, and we'll see. If you guys want to hear more, then I'll cover another one if you guys want me to. Or I think she talks more about her marriage and her giving birth and other things. I don't know. I think she talks more about her first marriage too, but I'm not sure. I haven't gone that far yet. I try to read as much as I can, but some of these blog posts are like 10-20 minute reads, so it can be time consuming just like sitting there trying to read a few. But I mean, they are worth a read. Some of them are. Definitely deep dive a lot into her life that wasn't covered on the show. But you guys let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.